They say only two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. But the universe has a lot of explaining to do, because sometimes it feels like humans have cornered the market on that particular brand of stupidity. And nowhere is this more true than in cities. Cities are supposed to be hubs of progress, engines of civilization, there where people go to make their dreams come true, or at least they used to be. But today we have empty shells all across the world. The centers of once great cities are now abandoned wastelands, conquered by weeds and ruled by the homeless. These failed urban centers are so common, in fact, that we've actually made an entire series about them. But what happened here? How does a city go from thriving center of industry to uninhabitable wasteland? Well, today we're going to look at one such city, a place that was once called the East Coast of the West. Today, we'll look at how a city lost its soul. This is the story of Oakland! Oakland sits on the north side of San Francisco Bay, and it has been occupied by the indigenous people for thousands of years. But modern Oakland begins with a guy named Horace Carpentier. Carpentier had a problem. He owned a farm in the area, but it wasn't making money. So he did what any reasonable person would do. He founded a city and named it after himself. Now, before anyone shows up in the comments to tell us that it's actually pronounced Car-N-T, E-R-N-T, or something else entirely, let us just say that when it comes to this subject, we prefer to take our pronunciation cues from the U.S. Census Bureau. Anyway, Carpenterville didn't last long. In 1852, another dude came along. This guy's name was William T. Coleman. And he decided that Carpenter's little village should instead be called Oakland. And just like that, the city got a new name. The next 30 years, we're good to Oakland. The discovery of gold in nearby Grass Valley brought a bunch of people to the area, and the newly completed Transcontinental Railroad brought even more. Oakland found itself smack in the middle of one of the largest economic booms in American history, and it grew alongside it. By 1890, Oakland had over 100,000 residents and was one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And then, as it often does, the rug got pulled out from under it. A severe economic downturn saw most of California depopulate as people moved back east in search of work. But Oakland, due to a combination of geography and local policies, actually gained population during the bust. While most of California was suffering, Oakland was thriving. It was affordable, had good jobs, and was close enough to San Francisco to make the commute worthwhile. Because of this, Oakland became known as the East Coast of the West. Sadly, though, it wouldn't stay that way forever. You see, while Oakland was becoming a major city, California had another problem. The state was running out of water. There was plenty of water in the eastern part of the state, but getting it there was a challenge. It still is, but back then, it was basically impossible. As a result, the western part of the state was stuck with basically no water. In 1913, this problem became too much of a problem, and the state government passed the Boulder Canyon Project Act, which allowed the federal government to construct a dam in the west and pipe water over to the east. This solution seemed pretty straightforward. Except for one thing, it required the destruction of the Hetch Hetchy Valley in Yosemite National Park. This decision was hugely controversial at the time, with some arguing that providing water to the state was more important, and others arguing that destroying part of a national park was more important. This debate ended up being one of the first major battles in the fight for environmental protection. But ultimately, the water was deemed more important, and the construction of the valley began. When it was done, the valley was completely gone, leaving behind a massive reservoir in its place. Today, the water from that reservoir provides water to much of California's Central Valley, including the city of Oakland. And while that might sound like a good thing, it actually sowed the seeds of Oakland's destruction. See, building a dam in a national park goes against the whole idea of national parks. As a result, most of the money that was spent on the project didn't come from tax dollars. Instead, it came from donations from wealthy Easterners who loved nature and hated dams. One of these people was John D. Rockefeller. In fact, he gave away over $1 million in today's money to fight for the protection of Yosemite. Well, After his donation, Rockefeller decided to switch sides and support the building of the dam. When asked why, he replied, "I have changed my views about the matter since I gave that money to the Yosemite Park Association. I was wrong then, and I am right now." This sort of soured public opinion of Oakland, especially in the wealthy eastern states. You see, many of the wealthy people who donated to the destruction of the valley believed they were helping to preserve the natural beauty of the American West. But then they turned around and realized that they had helped destroy one of America's most beautiful valleys. In response to this betrayal, many rich Easterners stopped donating to the city altogether. On top of this, the Great Depression rolled around again, and the economy tanked. With no wealthy donors and a failing economy, Oakland was left high and dry. Even worse, it started losing population. As people left the city, the tax base shrank, but expenses remained high. To make matters worse, the wealthy people who stayed put decided that they didn't want to pay the same amount in taxes as everyone else. In response, they fled to the suburbs, taking their money with them and leaving the city with an ever-shrinking tax base and ever-increasing expenses. Things eventually got so bad that in 1977, the city of Oakland declared bankruptcy. Now, normally, we'd end a video like this around here, but Oakland's story is far from over. In fact, the story we've told you so far is really just the backstory. Now it's time to get into the main dish. After declaring bankruptcy in the late 70s, the city of Oakland was forced to raise taxes to make up for its shortfall. But this proved to be extremely unpopular and led to protests. And I mean the kind of protests where students walk out of school or people stand on street corners holding signs. No, we're talking full-blown riots. From 1992 to 2006, Oakland was hit by a series of violent riots that left the city absolutely devastated. During this time, over 6,000 buildings were destroyed. 16,000 fires were set and over 3,000 people were injured. To put that in perspective, the damage done to Oakland during this period is roughly equivalent to the damage done to Iraq by the US military. In 2006, someone said stop and the city finally started to recover. But it's never really recovered. Businesses and residents have slowly trickled back into the city, but they haven't brought their spending habits with them. As a result, many of Oakland's streets have become ghost towns during business hours. This has caused a vicious cycle to take hold. Because the streets are empty, businesses leave. Because businesses leave, the streets are emptier, and the cycle continues. To add insult to injury, the crime rate in Oakland is nearly twice the national average. So not only are the streets largely empty during the day, they're also extremely dangerous at night. All of this has led to Oakland being branded as one of the most dangerous cities in America. Today, the city is a shadow of its former self. The downtown area is largely abandoned, and the residential population has shrunk by over 30%. In fact, Oakland is losing population at such a rapid pace that the city could be uninhabitable within the next few decades. So to answer the question posed at the beginning of this video, yes, the universe does owe us an explanation. How does a city go from being one of the most desirable places to live in California to one of the most dangerous cities in America? Well, it helps if you destroy one of America's most beautiful national parks. Hey, if you liked this video, you'll love our video on why Detroit was abandoned. It's honestly one of our best videos yet and covers one of our favorite topics, abandoned cities. Thanks for watching!